Hello and good morning.
Yes, I think we're probably good morning. We're in this change of scene today, so Matthew and I are actually in the office. We're actually the only people in the office today.
So I'm Matthew and this is Chantal, and we're from Champ Consultants, obviously. And what are we here to talk about today, Chantal? It's been a while.
So there's been a few changes along the way regarding furlough and self-employment schemes. So today we're sort of going to touch on the self-employed income support scheme. I forgot what it was called for a second. The self-employed income support scheme, which Matthew will be covering. Then we're going to touch on furlough. So the changes with June going up to October, and I'll be touching on those. And then we'll be looking at the discretionary top-up grants, which Matthew will be discussing about those. In the meantime, if you've got any questions that you want answered, then please do message us in on our chat. So I think that's available on our Facebook or various pages. So I will have my phone with me. So if you see me picking up my phone, then
that's just us checking your messages and your questions.
Yeah, as you can see, you can probably see the dog in the background. He's decided that he wants to come to the office today as well, and he's decided to listen in and sleep on my arm.
Yeah, he was very excited. It's the first time he's seen the office for a couple of months.
Yeah, so he was super excited to run around the office, and he's part of the team, so he can't really not come into the office at the moment anyway.
So we've been very lucky. We've been able to carry on working from home. So all our staff are at home working at the moment. So it's just us two in the office.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd do this update as the Chancellor at the end of last week announced that there was some changes to the schemes, and we got to the end of May and the first tranche of the self-employed income support scheme had effectively finished because it was supposed to cover March through to May. And the furlough scheme had been extended, which is what Chantal's going to cover. And we wanted to know what was going to happen for the self-employed people. Well,
so should we undergo?
So we'll go straight into the new rules. And
obviously
so
covering any questions as well.
So for those of you that may remember, hopefully many of our self-employed clients have all claimed this now, but the Chancellor announced the self-employed income support scheme, and it was for traders with profits up to 50,000, and they took an average of your profits over the previous three tax or up to 3 tax returns, as long as you'd filed your tax returns, and you were paid a quarter of that average. So that was effectively to cover 3 months of the year. It was capped at 7,500. So if you were earning at the higher end of that, just under the 50,000, you wouldn't receive all of it. You just get 7,500. Now, for those of you that haven't claimed yet, you still have time to do that. You have until the 13th of July. So you've got just over a month left to claim that first tranche of the support scheme. Many of you have done so. So far, according to the government, there's been 2.3 million self-employed people have claimed, and they've claimed between them a total of £6.8 billion. So some really big numbers, and obviously it's very necessary in supporting a lot of self-employed people who haven't been able to work. When you do your claim, you do have to certify that you have been affected by COVID, and if you haven't been, you're not supposed to be claiming, but it's a self-certification that your business in some way has been affected by COVID. And that money that you've claimed up to 7,500, it is taxable income, so it will be added to your profits for this tax year. So when you do next year's tax return, you are going to have to put that money on as part of your income. So that was the rules for the first tranche. And I say you've got till the 13th of July to claim it if you haven't already done so. Now, the second tranche really is to cover June, July and August. And the Chancellor has said this is going to be the last one. You're not going to get any more. So again, if your business is now affected, you're able to claim. The cap is slightly less. The calculation is slightly less. So we're still looking at your average profits for the last 3 years, the last 3 tax returns, but you're only going to get a claim of 70% of your income up to a maximum of £6,570. The applications aren't going to open until August, so the government were pretty good last time. They were claiming, paying people who claimed really within a week of the claim. So they're pretty fast, and that's the plan. The government has said they will announce more on the 12th of July, but effectively there'll be a date in August where you can go back onto the portal and make a claim. Now, your agents such as us, we can't do the claim on your behalf. You have to do it. And the Revenue have said they are tracking. If they see lots of claims coming from one IP address, i.e. from one accountant's office, they will query the claims. It has to be done by the client. So just check that. And if you're not sure of how to make the claim, you haven't got access to your portal, do check our other videos on this Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, where I did a video on how to get into your portal and how to reset your passwords and that sort of thing. So we have that video available if you need that help. So the applications are opening in August. Now, interestingly, if you haven't made the claim for the first tranche, or you missed the deadline, which is still 5-6 weeks away, you can still claim the second tranche even if you haven't had the first tranche. So that's good for those businesses that carried on trading absolutely fine in March, April, and May, but in the summer they take a downturn and now they're eligible to claim. So that's it. And that's pretty much it for the self-employed income support scheme. A bit of a mouthful, but hopefully that answers all the questions that you may have. If you want to put any questions in on the chat, I'm happy to answer them, but that's pretty much it for the SEISS.
Well, I've got a few questions.
Okay, go on then.
I've had a few questions that have come in, so people might not be able to watch the video live, but obviously it will be recorded, so people might be able to watch it again later. So one of the questions somebody has asked is, do we need to repay the self-employment grant back to the Revenue?
Okay, so we're having a bit of a technical issue here, trying to see the questions.
It's all right, I can do it on my phone.
Okay.
So Matthew, question is, do we need to repay the self-employment grants?
Okay, so these are grants. You don't have to repay them. As I said just now, the grant is taxable. So it is going into your income and going on your next tax return. So when you do your 2020-21 tax return, just treat it as part of your income. It is not repayable. It is not a loan.
Okay, and another question I've had is, if you didn't claim before and you're suddenly affected now, can you claim for the second tranche without the first one?
I covered that, but yes, you can claim the second tranche without having claimed the first tranche if for any reason you didn't claim. So you can have both or one or any combination. Okay,
my last question, just in case anyone else has got any more, please email them in, message them in. You said that you have to have been affected by COVID-19, coronavirus. Yep. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it doesn't necessarily.
I love putting them on the spot.
Yeah, well, anyway, your income might be down because you're not working, you're isolating, you're at home. So certainly if your income is down, that's an absolute surefire way of saying you've been affected by COVID. But there is a school of thought that there are other ways that you could have been affected, and that might be that maybe you are working full time, but your customers are not paying you, and you've not got the cash flow. So if you are struggling for any number of reasons, anything that's causing your business to struggle because of COVID, that's what these grants are for. So it is a self-certification process when you go through your portal. So as long as you can tick a box to say, yes, I've been affected adversely by this, then you're eligible to claim.
Okay, brilliant. And I would probably, the only thing I would add to that is that obviously it's treated as your income, and just be aware that if you are still working and slightly affected, then you are able to claim, and then hopefully the economy picks up quite quickly, but should come September, October time and you're booming, this additional grant money is added, so it could make you a 40% taxpayer, or it could affect your child benefit information. So
that's especially relevant for people who are earning just under the 50,000, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's not put you up on that.
Yeah.
So I have actually covered that in an article I wrote for the Caterham Independent, which should be coming out very soon. So you can always check out the Caterham Independent for that. Okay, so okay, we've had a question on the furlough, which I'll cover. I think that's my furlough section.
I'll hand over to you for the furlough.
So I'll leave you the phone in case you want to ask the questions there. So the furlough, I'm going to assess it based on months, because the furlough, we're in June and we're going all the way up to October. Post on the 31st of October, the furlough scheme will cease to trade. And the revenue still will cease, basically not trade, but will cease, will come to an end, the scheme will come to an end. And the revenue have confirmed that, like the self-employment scheme, which will come to an end in August, this will come to an end in October. The government have been asked what would happen if there was a second spike and we had to be on a complete lockdown again. What would happen to the situation then? And the government didn't really answer that question and basically said the scheme will be ending at this time. So obviously we're all hoping for not that second
There's
spike.
obviously only so much money in the pot.
Exactly. So let's look at each month at a time. We're in the month of June. The month of June is going to remain exactly the same as the previous months. So the government are providing 80% of the gross earnings. So the same calculation applies. It's the basic pay with contracted commission or average hourly pay. So it's exactly the same calculations. It's still based on the February pay. So if you've had to give people pay rises or increase, if they're on minimum wage and you've had to increase their to national minimum wage that went up in March, then obviously that's something you have to actually contract to pay for. The actual calculation for the furlough is based on their February pay still, and that goes all the way up to October. So you have the so June is exactly the same. You're going to get 80% of the pay with a maximum of £2,500 a month, plus employers' national insurance contributions, plus employers' pension contribution, workplace pension contribution. So they are going to be exactly the same. The only main date that we have in June is the 10th of June. So if you have staff that you have not yet furloughed and are considering furloughing them, you must furlough your staff by the 10th of June. Now, naturally, to furlough a member of staff, you have to actually tell them that they're going to be furloughed. They have to sign an agreement that they're going to be furloughed and that you're going to furlough them. So this must all take place and everything must be in writing before the 10th of June in order for you to be able to claim for them in your June pay.
Do you also have to put them on their name on the portal so the government are aware of them?
I looked at that yesterday with Sally and it was quite difficult. It wasn't possible to put somebody on a portal without actually physically making a claim for them. And obviously you can't make a claim 2 weeks before you're going to make the pay. So it looks like that you don't have to actually have their name registered on the portal, but it might be that you have to actually have furloughed them. Now that might change between now and the 10th. Sally and I looked at it yesterday, which was the 1st of June. I would suggest that if you are going to put people on the portal, on the furlough scheme, that basically if you do it yourself, that you've actually looked at the portal on the 9th of June. And if you need to register them at that date, then they are actually registered, because obviously things can change in this next few days. So that's your June. In July, we're exactly the same. We get 80% of our pay, including employers' national insurance contribution and including employers' workplace pension contribution. Still the same, £2,500 ceiling maximum per month. The difference will take place, as you know, if you're furloughed, you're not allowed to work for your employer. You can go out and you can do voluntary work. You can go out and work somewhere else if necessary, but you're not allowed to work for your employer. From July, this is where we start changing the rules slightly. So from July, your employer is allowed to bring you back as an employee. So you are allowed to either come back full-time if necessary or come back on a part-time basis. If you do want to bring your employees back on a part-time basis, then you have to give them notice in writing. So you'd have to inform them in advance that they are going to be coming back on a part-time basis. You would then say, example, I don't know, they're coming back a day a week, let's say, for example, or a day a week, let's say, because it makes my numbers easy. A day a week, and their normal shift is a 5-day week. Well, then you would have to pay them the 20% of the pay, and you'd still be able to claim 80% of the government. So if they were coming back on a 2-day week, you would claim 60%, which is effectively 3 days, and you would pay them for the 2 days they're working. Naturally, you would pay them 2 full days. That's July. Now, obviously, from July onwards, you're allowed to bring them back part-time. So it's only for June that we can't bring back our staff. Post-July, we're allowed to bring back our staff. In August, we are still getting 80% pay from the government up to a ceiling of £2,500, and that is it. We will not be able to claim for the employer's national insurance contribution on that pay, and we will not be able to claim for the employer's workplace pension contribution. This must be then funded by the employer. They cannot be claimed. So from September, once again, after August, that's it. So there's no more employers' contributions, no more employers' workplace pension contributions from August onwards. So from August, we can get the £2,500. From September, this will drop to 70%. So we will only be entitled to claim 70% under the furlough scheme, which is a maximum of £2,187.50 for the month. And in October, this will drop again to 60%, which is a maximum of £1,875. Now, this does mean, however, that if your member of staff is fully furloughed in September and October, you as an employer must top up their pay to the 80% mark. So if at 70% they are still fully furloughed, you would pay the government, you'd be able to claim 70% off of the government, but you have to pay the extra 10%. So it is down to you to pay that extra 10%. The furlough, they can't just get 70% of their pay. They have to get the minimum of 80, and whether that's 10% funded by you, that 10% has to be funded by you in September, and then 20% has to be funded by you in October. After that day, then the scheme will end. The government has said that the calculation on how they're going to want it to be done for those that come back part-time will not actually be disclosed until the 12th of June. So on Friday, the 12th of June, the government will release some data and some explanations on how we're going to actually provide them with the information that actually shows what that part-time person is actually working and how they're actually, what their hours are, so that they can, and what their norm is as well. So they're expecting a norm as well there. So I've covered those bits there, just looking back at my notes here. So employees that you do decide to bring back to work on a part-time basis, their working hours have to have been agreed in beforehand, and it has to cover at least 1 week. So you can't just, if it's, say they're coming back for 3 days, it's got to be 3 days that week. So, and it's got to be the same for the week. The full wages are due to them on the days that they're actually working. So you have to pay for 100% on the pay of the day they're working, and then the rest of the time you can claim the furlough amount. And as I said already, the working hours must be confirmed to the employee in writing. And obviously it's always best to have their confirmation and any agreements in writing that you both understand what's going on. I think that covers all the furlough bits.
Okay, well, there's a couple of questions. So Timothy has asked, how is the part-time return going to affect furlough? Do we still claim 80% if they're working 25% of their hours, or would we claim 75%? Is it up to 80% or otherwise? So could you just run over that part-time business again? So yeah, so if they're working 25% of the time, then you're only entitled to claim 75% of that. That is our understanding. They have said that they will confirm the actual structure and the calculations of this on the 12th of June. So if 12th of July. 12th of June. June, okay. 12th of June. July is the self-employed one. Yeah, 12th of June is how they're going to actually show the calculations on this. So in that case, Timothy, what I would actually do is I would actually probably wait before you, if you've got any staff that you want to bring back as a part-time basis, I would probably wait until you actually had the calculation for the 12th of June so that you're financially aware and you can work out your cash flow point of view on what you're actually going to get coming in as to how you're going to actually get your people working for you. I probably would wait till the 12th of June before I go to my employees, offer them something, and then later on realise I'm actually out of pocket. So no, I would just wait. So essentially, if someone was working a quarter of the time, you would expect to pay them a quarter of their wages, then the rest you would claim off the government, but at 80%. So is the proportion. Yes, it's still 80% of the proportion. So if, example,
I don't know, say they normally get paid, I don't know, my maths.
£100 a day, make it
£100 a day, nice and easy numbers. And today they're actually working, they would get £100 for today's work. And if they're not working tomorrow, they normally get 80%, £100, but you would only be able to claim 80% of that daily rate. Now that's how I would think the logic would work, but that's logic.
Let's wait
and the revenue are not always logical.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying let's wait till the 12th of June until we actually have a full calculation and we can actually make decisions after that time.
Okay. So one other question from Mark. He's been told, now this is a director of his own company. Yep. And as you're aware, many directors, the furlough scheme doesn't quite work for them, but he's been told that because he does his payroll annually and not monthly, he can't apply for the furlough payments. Is that correct? No,
that's not correct. Actually, the revenue confirmed that not that long ago. It was about a month or so ago, where the revenue confirmed there are lots of directors' payrolls who actually only do the payroll March. That actually covers the whole year, and it's an annual payroll scheme. So because they actually only do it annually, the government have said that actually you can do the average. So you can actually do a calculate. So basically, let's just assume you get, I don't know,
12,000.
12,000. Matthew loves. I hate mental. So it's nice and easy. So say you get 12,000, and that comes to you in March. That's an average of £1,000 a month. Well, that would be your February pay if you had done it monthly. Therefore, we're going to say £1,000, and you'd be able to be furloughed under that route under £1,000.
Obviously, so, you wouldn't have been able to work, and you can only do your director's statutory duties.
Yeah, so obviously as a director, and we have covered this in our previous videos, which are available on YouTube, but our director's pays, you can carry out director duties, which naturally include bookkeeping, replying to standard emails, making sure your confirmation statements are filed on time, your payroll records are done, your accounts are filed on time.
Can you pay your suppliers?
You can pay your suppliers because it's basically a duty of the company to adhere to contracts that they've carried out, and therefore you would be able to pay your suppliers.
We have heard cases of directors using "I've been furloughed" as an excuse not to pay their suppliers, and that one doesn't wash, I'm afraid.
Yes, no.
Obviously, if they can't pay because their cash flow is bad, that's a very different matter to...
Exactly, and then at that time you would try and negotiate. So it's the same, if you can't pay your PAYE and NIC bills, then you would then contact revenue for a time to pay structure.
Okay.
That's exactly
another question, can directors still furlough if they are not working? Could they work part-time like their staff, or only do statutory obligations?
So at the moment, we're still in June. So you are not allowed to work. So if you have until the 10th of June to furlough yourself as a director, and you are allowed to furlough yourself as a director up until the 10th of June, which will then cover you going forwards. If comes to July, you realise that actually work's starting to come in a bit now, and you actually, and it's not statutory duty work, it's actually work that will generate more money into the business, then you are entitled to then go on a part-time basis, but naturally not until July.
And if you haven't yet claimed your furlough because you're an annual payroll director and you now realise you can you backdate it to March?
Yes, you can. You can put your furlough claim in. When you go onto the portal, it will ask you what period it is you want to cover. And that is where you would put your start date and your end date for the period that you are claiming at that time. Now, when you do a portal claim, you can only claim for a period that is ending within the next 2 weeks. So example, I cannot put a claim in now for a period ending on the 30th of June, because we're not 2 weeks away from the 30th of June, if that makes sense. So you've got to have the claim within 2 weeks of the end of the date. But yes, you would be able to put a period in that covers the whole period, and then you'd be able to get that done.
Okay. Adam's asked a question. This is about 0 hours staff. So can they part furlough 0 hours workers, and how would that work? Because how would it be calculated? They've been furloughed from the beginning. So obviously they've been based on their average pay previously, but he fears that if they part work, they will end up earning less than when they were on the full furlough. If that makes sense.
I don't think you can earn less.
If you bring them back on 0 hours.
But if you bring them back, then they're not working.
But if you bring them back and they start part-time working, how do you calculate the proportion?
Well, you would have the average already of what you're doing. And this is all going to be on the calculation that the revenue will release on the 12th of June, which is why I really, really would suggest that nobody makes a decision on any members of staff until the 12th of June.
Other than getting them into the scheme if they're not already.
Yes, so your priority is getting anybody into the scheme that's not already into the scheme now, and then come the 12th of June and the revenue have released all the data after that date, then we would do it. Regarding that, Adam, to me, common sense, and obviously, please, this is my common sense, not the revenue's common sense, and obviously the two different things. To me, it would make sense that those, so say you bring them in on an average, you would have to work out what their average was when they're furloughed, compared to if you bring them on a part-time basis, you would pay them for those hours, and then the average that they're not actually covering, you would be able to claim the furlough amount for that bit. So they're never actually, the whole point of bringing them back in is that they're not out of pocket. Otherwise there'll be no point in bringing them back in. So, but I would say probably, Adam, I hope it's okay to probably say, I would wait until the 12th of June on that one, until we've had clarifications, because there are 0-hour contracts, part-time members of staff, everybody who they need to work out how to do it so that they're not worse off. Everybody needs to be better off, not worse off.
Okay, that's it. There's no more questions, Chantal.
Oh, good. Right, so that's the self-employment scheme and the furlough scheme. Now, Matthew's going to cover the discretionary top-up grants. So all I would like to say about this is that this is probably a real opportunity for those people who have been unable to claim under the self-employment income support scheme, because you've probably maybe started self-employment after the 5th of April 2019, and therefore you've got nothing to claim. Or in the year to April 2019, you were employed and self-employed. You were starting, maybe you got made redundant, you stopped, and then you started self-employment, but your employment was more than 50% of your self-employment, which meant that you can't claim under the self-employment scheme. So to me, the discretionary top-up grant is there for you. Yeah. So Matthew's going to talk about.
Well, you've told them everything they need to know. But
what is it? How do they get it? What is
essentially, this is discretionary, and you need to go through your local council. So I'm aware of a local business to us that started last summer and is not eligible for any of the schemes that the government have announced. And they've gone to the local council. They've got some figures about what they were doing prior to the lockdown and what they're doing now. And they've applied, and they've got some references and things from people that, about their business, and they've submitted that to the council. The council have been given funds, and they've got to eke those funds out amongst probably a number of claimants, and they don't know how many people are going to claim yet. But basically, this is done through your local council. So for those of us based in Caterham, that would be Tandridge District Council, and they are discretionary funds. So the application is through your council. So go onto your local council website and make that claim. And that's a grant. So again, that's going to be the same as the self-employed income scheme, that if you do get any money via this method, it's going to be treated as income and it's taxable. But certainly it's another opportunity for those that haven't been eligible to get something. So go cap in hand, plead your case to the council, and they'll probably ask for some figures about what you were trading prior to the lockdown. Yeah, you will have to upload some data. So hopefully you've got some bookkeeping to be able to prove your turnover, etc. prior to the lockdown. Failing that, the other option, which is pretty good, is the what they called the bounce back loans. That's it. There's the bounce back loans, and again, those are loans though. So these ones are not taxable. They are repayable, but go through your bank and you can apply for a bounce back loan. They're quite easy to do, and you self-certify that your business has been affected by COVID, and you can borrow up to 25% of your turnover, not your profits, your turnover, up to a maximum of £50,000. So that will maybe dig some businesses out of a hole. The loan is repayable. It is free for the first year, so there's no interest for the first year. And then after that, it's 2.5%. So very cheap loans, actually. So they're very good. And I think they're 3 to 6 year loans. So certainly worth checking out if your business is struggling and you are thinking of a loan. The first port of call is the bounce back loans, and that they haven't given an end date on those yet. So they're all currently open for application.
I've had a question in from Timothy regarding the additional grant available. So yes, Timothy, Matthew's just mentioned those. They're called the discretionary top-up grants. Yes, they are for businesses who are not paying commercial rates. So obviously, if you've benefited from the I don't know what they were called.
The 10,000.
Yeah, the 10 or the 25,000 pounds grant that you received as a commercial building. If you've benefited from that, you cannot apply for the discretionary top-up grant. So they are available for those who have not applied for those.
I believe Tim has a couple of businesses, so and I'm quite aware what those businesses are. So I believe you may have had the 10 grand grant from Croydon Council.
So yeah, so they are for non-profit. Now, I would just say that if you actually look at the legislation on it, it does say they are for bed and breakfasts. They are for those who maybe have Airbnbs. They are for market traders and stuff like that. There is a clause in there that actually says that it is the discretion of the council to actually give to other companies, to other organisations. I personally phoned up Townbridge Council and I actually asked them if my clients work from home, have a business from home, they're based from home, they might be a dog walker, they might be a mobile mechanic, all those
or anyone with a log cabin in the garden.
Yeah, log cabin in the garden. They're actually based at home, aren't you? So you don't actually have the council tax rates. You're not an Airbnb, you're not a bed and breakfast, you're not a market trader. They have said definitely, please get them to apply. The grants are discretionary at the council's decision as to who actually benefits from them. I do know a few people who have actually applied for them. The deadline for applying in Cambridge, I do believe, is either the 10th or the 12th of June. I can't quite remember the exact date. But most councils' website, you would go onto the front page of the council's website, and there should be something in there about a discretionary top-up grant. Now, I know that Timothy has said that Croydon Council said they have one, they don't know what it's called, and they don't know which department's dealing with it, which I thought was hilarious because it sounds about right, the councils, doesn't it? But it is called a discretionary top-up grant, and that's what the government have called it. So maybe it might be worth doing a search for it on there and maybe having a look. But I would definitely, it's an online application and it's down to the government to decide, the council to decide whether they can or can't. And I mean, if they say no, there's no harm back, go and ask them why.
Timothy, I've just seen your last message. Yes, this has been fairly recent thing. So if you phoned the council last week and they didn't know what these loans are called, they will know them now. So do get onto Croydon Council. If you haven't, as you said, you haven't had the 10,000 grant for the business rates, then you are certainly potentially eligible for this one. So give it a go.
The other thing that we've just had a comment from Lee here. Lee said that he took advantage of the bounce back loans through Starling. It was really easy and a very quick process. I've had amazing good comments about bounce back loans from a variety of banks, and they have said that they are very easy to apply for. It's literally an online application. It's a self-certification regarding whether you have suffered from coronavirus or not. And I would definitely consider a bounce back loan. Now, the main advantage of most bounce back loans is that you make the application for a bounce back loan. It's got to be no more than 25% of your turnover. So if your turnover is 100 grand, you can't apply for more than £25,000. However, it's interest free for the first 12 months. And there is usually, and all the banks that I've looked at are all the same, there is no penalty clause or charge or anything like that for repayment early. So it would make 100% sense if your business has been affected anyway by coronavirus to make an application for a bounce back loan. Apply for the maximum amount that you can possibly have. In my opinion, this is my opinion now, please. Apply for the bounce back loan. So if you're on 100,000 turnover, apply for 25%. Put it into this bank account, put it into a savings account in the business or in the company. In a year's time, if you did not need that money, then repay the loan back. But if you did need that money, 2.5% interest is probably the rock bottom amount of interest that you will ever have to pay in any scheme.
Yeah.
So it is a definite advice is that I would definitely go for a bounce back. It's a very easy application. It's online, and as Lee has said, it was really easy to do and a piece of cake. So definitely my advice to anybody would be make an application for a bounce back loan.
Yeah, and I've had anecdotal evidence of people applying for these bounce back loans and having the money next day within 24 hours. So they're very fast.
Really good.
Timothy's got another question for his brother who set up a limited company in January after being self-employed but hadn't yet got a bank account. Well, if you're a limited company, you have to have a bank account. The company's money is not yours, so you have to put it into a bank account in the company name. So get that sorted, get a bank account open. Even if you can't get into one of the bank branches of one of the high street banks, there's plenty of online banks, Tide, Starling, Metal, all those kind of ones. Others are available. They're all online. You do it via an app or via a website, and they don't have branches. They're just developing all the time, and they're really good. As Lee said, he did his through Starling Bank. So get a bank account open. If you had some trade in January, February and March before the lockdown, and you can prove that you had trade, then you could be eligible for one of these bounce back loans. But if the company was dormant and you haven't done anything until the lockdown, you're not going to be able to do much. But if you have trade and you build, then you have every chance and you've got nothing to lose to apply.
So yeah, and Timothy, your question there on can you open a bank account and then apply for a bounce back loan? Yes, is the answer to that. And in actual fact, I know by NatWest that actually you can apply for a bounce back loan without having a NatWest bank account. So some banks are actually, because not all banks are allowing bounce back loans. So therefore there are a multitude of banks that are still allowing you to apply for a bounce back loan, even if you don't have a bank account.
But you will need a bank account in the company name somewhere to pay that money into.
Yes. So to me, I would just set up an account, an online account, as Matthew said, Starling, Tide, Metal, there's many others, but they're the three that come to hand normally. And normally I know clients who've set up a Metal bank account, got account number, sort code in 20 minutes.
And there's probably a few people thinking, Metal, who the hell's Metal? It's an online bank that's owned by RBS, so RBS NatWest.
Yeah, that's METTLE. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that has answered everyone's questions. If you've got any other questions, then please do message us in once the videos is finished. We'll happily send you some answers to them, and hopefully do watch that. This video will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, where you'll be able to see our other videos as well that we've done throughout coronavirus. We haven't really started them since coronavirus. It's been quite exciting. So to do some shameless promotion, do search for Champ Consultants on YouTube and subscribe to us, please. You're probably already on our Facebook page watching this video, so please do share it if it's been helpful to you, and
you can contact us. We're open and trading. We're open for new business. So email is info@champconsultants.co.uk, and our phone number is 01883 349 300.
And we're also available on Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn as well.
We
So
are.
we're on all our social media channels, so please do follow us.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much for tuning
Thank
in
you.
today. We hope it was useful.
Remember to
And,
stay safe,
stay safe.
alert.
Stay alert. Absolutely. Gosh. Okay, and maybe we'll see you again for another update sometime soon.
Yeah. And remember to get those people furloughed.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.